How you doing today?
Well, a little slow out of the gate. I'm not going to lie to you. I was listening to the radio, and then of course the radio announced what time it was, and I was like, "Oh wait, I have to
Well,
be somewhere."
I have an
So
appointment.
yeah, here I am. So
Look at us.
Jody,
I mean,
uh,
you can tell that we're like a Saturday. This is a Saturday morning live show because both of us look, our
it's like
hats
hell.
on.
Oh yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah.
we don't look bad, but we look very relaxed. I'd say we're
Very relaxed. Very relaxed. We're
casual.
very relaxed down here on the Cape. We're coming to you from our remote location from the southern outpost of Money and Law today.
Look at that. Look at that. A nice bright room in there. Look at that. The sun's getting ready to come in.
Oh yeah, yeah. The dog's whining in the background because he's trapped in the crate because I haven't let him out yet. He's going to complain through the whole show. And yesterday was the first. Yesterday was the first official beach day of the season.
And you went. Oh yeah, it was hot, right?
Oh yeah, snuck in an hour. I said to the kids, I'm going to make a chart, and the chart's going to have everybody's name on it, and then it's going to have how you get to, you got to come in and put in your time to see how much time you're going to beach. And but it's an hour minimum. Can't just drive down, get out of the car, and look, and then call that a beach day. You actually get out of the car, sit in the sand for an hour.
So you're and you're going to track that. Is there some sort of a prize, or is there some sort
I'm
of
trying to think of that. And we'll take any advice from our illustrious studio audience.
Yeah.
If they want to let us know what they think the gift or the award should be for the most beach days,
most logged beach time.
Complaining. I'm sure there'll be some complaining because obviously Riley be leaving to go to school, so she might not get a full season in, so she's going to complain. So maybe we'll do like we'll count it like the president counts it. We'll just make it like the most number or per capita.
Well, I think another option you could do is you just cut it off, like give it up to this date. So you have from May 23rd till August 15th, or pick a number, and then and there you go. And that makes it fair. I may get in on put my name on that. Put my name on that.
All right.
Yeah.
Anybody else wants to be on the board? Call in, email the show. We'll put you on.
So you got to, and the rule is you got to be there for an hour. 1 hour.
1 hour on the beach. I think that's fair.
Okay. And are we adding up hours, or are we just adding up like
flat out? Like we'll consider that a beach day. So it's most beach days at the end of the season. So
okay,
that's how we're going to do it. I think that makes sense. I think that's fair.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'll give you a run for your money.
I'm sure you will.
I will. I'll do my best.
So what do you guys have planned for Memorial Day? Anything exciting?
Oh yeah. It's going to be good. We're entertaining the idea. I think we're going to have maybe my sister-in-law and my nephew may come over and do some social distancing, out back.
Very nice.
We had one of Haley's lifelong friends, Karen, was over last night, and again, the social distancing piece, and I'm sure we'll get to talking all about coronavirus, like we usually do, lately. But
now, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you. Speaking of the social distancing, because obviously it's been the topic of the show the last couple of weeks. I find it interesting. I think there's some confusion around the rules. Everyone's always yelling about your mask, right? The mask is what you're required to wear when you can't social distance, right? Those are the rules, right? Are you just totally enamored at what I'm saying? Because you seem to be staring right at me. I'm going to guess your link is probably broken, and that's why you're just mesmerized by me. All right, so folks, so the money side of the house obviously has broken down over there. He didn't spend any money on his laptop, which is clearly the problem here. So I will continue on until he can get himself reconfigured over there. One of the things that we talked about during the last show was the PPP funding. And for those of you who are thinking about the PPP funding, I believe there's still some money left in the pool. They haven't given it all away, which was something that they talked about after the first round of funding went on. There was a huge push. I mean, the run on the funds, the application process, it really made it very, very challenging for those people. Oh, hey, you're back. What happened?
I don't know. It was a technical thing.
Yeah. Did you turn it off and turn it back on?
Yeah, I fixed that. How else do you fix computers?
So while you were gone, I wasn't talking sports with myself. I was talking PPP funding. And let me ask you this. Have you applied for forgiveness of your loan yet?
No. I thought we were talking about something else before that. We're talking about All right, no, Laura, we'll get to that. No, I have not, but I did get a notice saying get ready. You know,
Yeah.
there's going to be a checklist of things that need to get done, and you know, be ready for it. So yeah, it's one of those things where you know you can't have your ducks in too good an order to apply for this, because I imagine they're just as they were inundated with the applications, they're going to be inundated with the
loan
forgiveness
Yeah.
piece, right?
Yeah. I completely agree with you. And the odd thing is, for those of you who are in the middle of it right now, you only had 8 weeks to spend it, right? So it's not like you can hang around and not, you know, which is a bit weird. It's kind of like, well, it's 2 pay periods. So if you got the money, it was 2.5 times your payroll. So you got, you got to move it along, I guess is the point, right? You got to spend it on yourself and your employees, and then any of the other ancillary expenses that you were going to spend it on. But yeah, you're right. The getting it was the one part. The forgiveness piece of it's the most important part. That's the part that you really get work on.
Yeah, and you just said it. So the rule of thumb is that you're allowed to. It's going to cover 2 months or 8 weeks of your payroll, and then your cost of if you have rent or if you have a mortgage, it's going to cost that. That's what it's going to cover, as well as any taxes, payroll taxes that are involved. If you're contribute to a defined contribution plan, or sorry, defined benefit plan, then that's covered as well. But when you applied for the loan, and if they gave you the 2.5 times your payroll, there's going to be if you do the math on it, there's going to be a portion that's forgivable, as well as a portion that is not forgivable. So, and that's not the end of the world. In fact, it's not bad. It's just we consider that as just a small business loan. That's nothing more than a fast small business loan that is under a relatively reasonable interest rate with a reasonable time period to pay it back. So it's good. And businesses, that's how businesses stay in business, is they finance things and they finance the ability to kind of get through cash flow issues. No, I'm fine. Thanks for asking. No. I'm all set. I like how the great part about this is how you put the camera so we could see you getting coffee, because if God forbid,
I don't want you talking to yourself.
I mean, that's right. So as far as the CARES Act, the loan that the payroll protection loan, yeah, you can't be too organized. So make sure you get your all your paperwork in order. When it's time to when they start accepting them, send it back in, and then what we're coaching our clients to who had it is to make a plan. So make a plan. You may not have the ability to pay back the loan right away, or the remainder of the loan, the part that isn't forgiven. And if you don't, that's okay. Again, it's all part of how you finance your cash flow. But make a plan, a real plan, a concrete plan, like, we'll just pay the minimum, and just as if you were taking any other type of financing, to make a plan to have an end time of when you're going to be able to pay that off.
Well, in very forgivable terms, if you can't pay it off, right? So I mean, it's not it's not designed to be soul crushing, right?
Nope.
So let's spin it around from the PPP piece to the coming back to work piece. Are you guys doing anything special over there now that you potentially have the option to be open? And I mean, you guys really are in they never really closed anyway. But what's your comeback plan?
Yeah, so our option, we're going to kind of take this. The plan is we had a really fun Zoom meeting with the guys. Our plan is to we're going to take this a week at a time. And right now, our current operations are allowing us to keep doing what we're doing. So we're fortunate in that everybody lives close, so we can rotate in. We don't have to spend a lot of time in the office. Everybody can do their work remotely, and then if they do need to go in, they can get it done. So we're lucky in that way. We have our new intern is coming, so he'll be able to work remotely. So we have, for us, it's not a big deal, as it is for many, many, many other people, because now, as the businesses start to reopen, they're going to open differently, right? There's going to be it's going to be a whole different way of operating. The idea we were discussing before, we were talking about social distancing and being safe. And the thing about the whole coronavirus and is the more you read, kind of the more we all learn about this. There's things that come up every single day. it's it's spending time with people, with a good number, a good group of people in close proximity. That seems to be kind of the where most people are getting this. That's kind of the general consensus. So
right.
So now if people come back to work, and let's say you work in relatively close quarters, that's something that people are going to have to, they're going to have to make a plan on how to minimize that as much as they can, just like school or anything else.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're going to be focused on is the fact that, first of all, as crazy as this is going to sound, bringing back people together who haven't been together in 2 months, right? I think you sort of have to give some thought to sort of slowly reestablishing, the work dynamic, right? Because everybody's been, even if you've been working remotely, you've been completely kind of thrown out of this thing, right? So I don't think that we're going to treat this like a flip the switch, it's back to work, and that's the end of it. I mean, because for people who are home and people who have younger kids, they still have to they still have childcare issues, right? Those things haven't been addressed because those kids aren't back in school. People have been socially distancing, and they've been working remotely. So coming into the office and sort of going right back to, quote, the way things were, that's going to be completely different. We're going to have and even for the employees, right? We want everybody to be comfortable. We want everybody to feel safe. So we're going to have very specific, this is how often, you see it in stores, for example, this is how often everything gets disinfected, right? Often all the doorknobs get wiped down. This is how often, but you put out a raft of scrub down products and Purells and all, like I'm sure like everybody else is going to do. But those are the things that, like you guys, that we're going to be doing just to make sure that everybody's comfortable. And we're probably not even going to go back to right away like a 5-day week. I think we're first week or two, it's going to be, work 2 or 3 days at the office, and then the rest of the time, like you were working back home, because that's what you've become accustomed to, for the last 2 months. And then, we'll slowly sort of wean everybody back into this, into their normal routine. We're not just going to all of a sudden say to everybody, hey, Monday is when everybody has to be back in the office doing the same exact things they were doing, because now they've set themselves up at home to do stuff. So
sure,
we're going to sort of use this slow, integration back into the system so that people feel comfortable about it.
That brings up a great point, because oftentimes there's people that from my office that are required to come over to your office and do some type of legal support. That happens a lot. So
you know what I'll do? I'll send over my practices so that they feel, because I don't want them to feel uncomfortable coming over to my office to witness. So maybe we should have a joint Zoom meeting between the offices.
Can we do Zoom witnessing? That's what I want to know.
We can. Yeah, we can. We can do remote notarization, virtual notarization.
I'm happy to assist you there. So what you're telling me is that at the Marsden law firm, you're not going to have, the luau isn't going to start on Monday. We're not going to have the big poo platter out and
nope. You're not going to be walking across the hot cold. You're not going to be walking across the hot cold right away.
Good to know. Good to know. I'm not going to. So I'm not going to get my hopes up right away.
No. I mean, believe me, we're fully up and running and functioning. But from a staff management perspective, again, you get people who are home, who are doing their own thing, who don't understand. Basically, everything is different now. The whole normal is different. So we don't want to just turn around and. I don't think it's a flip the switch thing. I think it's people have to be comfortable. They got to know what's going on. They got to handle everything the way they got to handle it. And it's not going to be a case of just, hey, by the way, we're open. Go do what you were doing 2 months ago. I don't think that's the way to approach it.
I couldn't agree with you more. All right. So, but one thing that I know you will agree with before we go to break is that your faithful hosts of diehard Money in the Law hosts are going to, we are on the cutting edge. We're on the tip of the spear, if you will, as far as bringing everything back, because we're going to tell you, this is what I wanted to talk about today, is we're going to tell you kind of where your head needs to be as you come back, as you start to make things, we talked about maybe some things you could have done, during your break, but now if things start to come back to normal, here's the things that you need to probably look at, both from the law side, as well as the money side. I'm opposite on my camera.
Yeah, you're doing it like we're not in Australia. You're doing it the opposite there.
Right. It swirls this way in the northern hemisphere. All right. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back on Money and Law with Jay Marsden. He is the law, and I'm John Drohan. Main Effort Financial. He is from the Marsden Law Group. We will be right back.
Hey, good morning. We're back. Money Law, My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden, John Drohan as the money. Yours truly as the law, and we're back on the show.
I like how I get a good morning, like where it's almost like you forgot you already did the first segment. Oh, good morning. Oh, wait a minute.
Hey, how are you?
I'm halfway through. Yeah, I'm here.
Great to see you. Well, I threw on a little illumination here down at the Southern Outpost, so it kind of perked things up a little bit. A little dark there for a second.
But you look like you do look a little brighter. You look like you got a little sun on you. Yeah.
Across from the beach yesterday. We talked about this. Yeah, that's right. Day one. I'm ahead in the race.
It's all. Yeah. Well, I imagine that you also do have your own. You guys do have a vacation home down there, so that would give you a little bit of an advantage. So what I have to do is I have to just go visit my mother. More often, and
the great Janet. Yes, you do. Yes,
actually, what I'll do is I'll just drive up to her house, wave to her, and then just keep driving and go right to the beach. Sit there for an hour just so I can log in my beach day, so I can get whatever this prize.
Well, it's funny. So they did.
Is it a free estate plan?
Well, so there was.
I'm interested
in. You what?
I'm interested in if having maybe a complimentary estate plan as be the prize. I mean, that sounds who doesn't need
a consult. We'll give you one of our money. We'll give you one of our money in the law masks that go over your face like this.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, you get a set of them. You get a money one and a law. You get to decide. Obviously who wants to be who, and you guys can play around. Who do you? Am I a Jay? Am I a John? You kind of one of those. Like a sex.
Like Team J. Team J, Team
right.
John. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
That's right. The beach covered with law.
I'm surprised.
Break it down. One side of the beach, one side of the line right down the middle. Figure out where people are going to go. That's right.
I'm surprised that hasn't started up already, like a Team J, Team John. I mean, I do like that.
It's fun. It's fun.
Like, I was just texting with my mother during the break, and so I did want to say hello. So great news for Mom. Just on the side, my brother is actually going to make a trip, and my brother has been quarantined. I mean, my brother was ready for the pandemic long before the pandemic started. I mean, this is the guy who, never throws anything away, saves stuff. Like, I may need this in case the zombie apocalypse happens. It shows up, and here he is. So. He was in January. He's saying, I just bought a bunch of masks. I can't find them on Amazon anymore. And I'm like, who's going to need masks? We're not going to be like, need masks, right? Sure enough. Yep.
He's doing the deep state thing. He's like, there's a run on masks. Something's coming.
Oh yeah.
Right? That's it. Yeah. Why can't I get them anymore?
So he feels it's safe for him to go. My mother's been in virtual isolation for the past 3 months. So he's going to go up and he's going to spend some time up there. He's going to take his family up. So I'm very excited that Mom's going to have
Memorial Day. All of a sudden, everybody wants to go visit Mom. I find that shocking. It's amazing.
Yeah. Memorial Day.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh. So you were talking before the break. What's on your mind? You talking mindset?
A great question came up yesterday in discussion with some clients, and the question is like, okay, so what's the plan to move forward? And the moving forward plan, again, we're all making this up as we go along, and no one really knows kind of what this near-term future is going to look like. But one of the realities is that there are a lot of people that their income has changed, whether they've lost their job or whether their job has changed. A lot of people, we have some clients that are in sales positions where they get a fundamental base salary but they haven't been able to sell anything because nothing's open. There's no, a lot of these business to business sales, particularly in the healthcare industry, like the healthcare industry, there's no selling going on. There's not like any drug reps or equipment reps that are going out to like say, hey doc, I'm going to show you this, new way to, suture up a hysterectomy or something like that.
You don't sell master gowns. You're not selling anything right now because there's no.
It's not happening, right? So and these people, their livelihood depends upon the ability to kind of to make these sales and have a continue, because they have their base of it, but most of their income is based on commission. So the question came up is like, okay, hey, what if I need if I need to supplement my income right now, and I'm not retired, I'm in, let's say, my 40s or my 50s or whatever. Right. I need to supplement my income. how do I do that? Like, here's what I have. What's the best way to do that? So we had a pretty good discussion about kind of if you have what your options were, and I have some feelings on it. So I'd like to talk about that, and get your feedback, because although you represent the legal side of our partnership, I will say that at times you do kind of sound like you know what you're talking about when it comes to money. I don't know why. I mean, what?
Are you announcing your new role with Uber right now? Is this what's happening here?
My side hustle.
Are you going to flash an Uber business card on the show right now?
No, that's not we're not. I'm not talking about supplementing my income by getting another job, because I'm making the assumption that I don't have the wherewithal. I still am doing my job. It's one thing to get another job if you can, but that seems very very unlikely, especially because people are, if anything, they're doing the opposite of hiring. They're not hiring. They're laying people off, or they're furloughing people. So I'm talking about taking money from my income. So let's say I need to, in order to kind of make all ends meet, I need to generate an additional $2,000 a month of income, because I've lost that from my ongoing commission schedule. How do I do that? So so the example that came up is one of our clients had some cash, so had some money in the bank. We'll say somewhere to the tune of between like $20,000 and $30,000, and they have some money, some stocks, some non-qualified, non-IRA stocks. So let's say they own some Apple, some IBM, some Dow Jones Industrial stock. That's worth about $50,000. We all know that the stock account is that stocks have the stock market's been a little volatile over the past 3 months. And then they have their retirement. They have their 401k, right? So, and of course, they're still employed. So their 401k is still fully operational. And they're like, well, what should we do? What's the best recipe if I need to generate this an additional $2,000 a month, or $3,000 or $4,000, whatever that number is. And so one of the things that comes up is, with respect to the 401ks, is you can take loans off of your 401k. So most 401ks will, at least the ones that most of them will allow, they have this loan provision, which usually translates to, you can take up to about half of your, 50% of what your vested value is, and take a loan. Essentially, you're taking the loan from yourself, and then you eventually will pay yourself back. There's some advantages and disadvantages of this. But so this person was like, well, if I take a loan off my 401k, then I don't have to touch my other assets, and I'm just going to be able to pay my loan back. And it sounds good, because the nice thing about paying your loan back on a 401k is the interest that you pay on it, you pay it to yourself. So it's not. It's almost like you're not like paying another bank or another institution, to borrow that money. You're essentially borrowing it from yourself.
Well, that's how a lot of people sort of talk themselves into it, right? I'm borrowing it from myself and I'm paying back, right? So that's the one thing you hear from most folks, and correct and accurate, and that's right from a math perspective. But I think you're going to take us down the philosophical path.
Well, I'll let you take it from here. Let me hear your opinion, then I'll tell you what the recipe was that we provided for them. So I'm interested to hear what you say.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I are on the same page on this. We usually are. I mean, I try to put that. Oh, I wouldn't do that. Let me start off by saying that. I think I would say, look, let's tackle the taxable assets first. Let's first of all, let's get out the scissors and let's see what we can cut out of this monthly number that we can get this number down. If you think it's 2,000 because you're doing everything the same way, can we get it to 1,000, for example? What do we have to cut out? There's some decisions that have to get made in here, and let's really think about it. And can we get that number down, first of all? And then the second thing that I would look at is what type of, and it might not be anything to write home about, but what type of income, if you will, has their portfolio that's been sitting on the sideline invested. Forget selling anything. What's that been generating, right? It's an opportunity to have this thing kick out some dividends or some capital gains to kind of fill in some of the gaps along the way. Only then would I start to venture into the waters of let's play around with the 401k, especially if somebody's in a position where they are, the account was positioned, in line with, their age and their time frames, which on the market, Because once you pull that money out of the account, even if it's just to help yourself out, it's not going to, if the market turns around, which we all certainly hope and pray that it will, if you will, that money's not going to be there to kind of ride the wave back up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. I'm saying it would probably be my last option.
All right, so I'm going to just take some notes right here. So Jay obviously is wrong again about money. Actually, so it's funny. And Jay and I often joke about this. So without any prior conversation prior to the show, my friend, my arguably the smartest lawyer I know, actually knows his way around the finance world. Exactly. That is the all right. Enough. All right. That is the exact prescription that we gave. And I'm going to break down Jay's analysis because he was spot on in everything he said. First things first, right? The number, right? How much do you need? That's the first question I asked. They said, well, in the example we're using, we'll say 2,000. My first question is, why do you need 2,000? Explain to me, like where's the shortfall? Because first things first, let's figure out what our budget is. And anywhere I can cut, and we talk about this on the show, we call that in our business manufacturing money. So if I don't need $2,000 a month, I only need $1,000. I've manufactured $1,000. All right. So where are some places to start? I mean, there's the obvious things like, all right, well, if we're paying for some ridiculous cable package that we necessarily don't watch or use all the time, maybe that's that like kind of those turn the lights off, use less gas and whatever, like that kind of stuff. But then there's other things like, so we talked about this person as a 401k. First of all, are you contributing to your 401k? So if you're investing money, right? If you're investing money and then at the same time you're going to start potentially take money from your investment, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul in that respect. So the first thing I would, and don't get me wrong, you and I both agree. I love saving for retirement. You can't save too much. You always want to save as much as you can. But right now, you can't afford perhaps to max out your 401k. You may not even be able to put any money into your 401k right now because of this because you're operating in the red. So,
and if you're maxing out your 401k, there's without even changing that number, without even manufacturing any number, that arguably closes the gap in your budget.
Exactly.
So I agree with you from that perspective. I'd rather have somebody pump the brakes on 1 year's funding than pull 50, for example, out of an account that then has no possibility of appreciation.
Yeah, makes all the sense in the world. So let's say you trim everything down, you streamline your budget, and you're still short. You still need that $2,000 a month. And where do I get it from? So I love, we talk about cash. So let's say this person has some cash. I do love the idea of having cash and cash for we talk about having, like, people say, well, I want to have like 6 months in case I get laid off or whatever the reason is. Cash is great to have because that's for when those are for the things you don't see coming. If you run out of options, or if something breaks in your house and you don't want to add now like finance and add a credit card bill because you're already streamlining your costs, having cash is good. So that $20,000, $30,000 mark of cash that's a nice place to be. And if I don't have to start spending that down over a period of time, then I'd rather not do that. But at the same time, it could be part of this, this whole entire plan.
Right.
One of the things, the other part of this is like when you do the analysis, you say, okay, we don't know what's going to happen, but let's go ahead and make some assumptions, and we'll figure this out kind of in blocks or in pieces. So and when we talked to the client, we said, let's look at 6 months. All right. So do you think who knows where we're going to be in 6 months? So let's make the assumption that this plan is going to go into effect for the next 6 months. And then in 6 months, if we're still here, then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But right now, we're going to do it in 6 month increments. So Jay then brought up the idea of the stock, the stock account, or that non-qualified, non-IRA stock account. And that was where I went first. As I say, look, this is what this is. Unless this is assigned for a specific purpose, This is what this is for. This is
Right.
if you've owned stock for some time and you've made money, that's why you invest. That you invest money, like you buy XYZ stock at $10 a share and you sell it at 20, you've made money. That's the whole purpose of investing, is to appreciate. So this may be the time. So, if we do the math and say, okay, let's say over the next 6 months, I think I'm going to need $20,000 or $15,000 or $30,000. Then if I can take that from my gains from the stock count, and maybe I take some from my cash, then I can leave my 401k alone. And I can't emphasize that enough.
Are you borrowing on margin to get that money?
On the stock account? No, I'm not yet.
I'm joking, everybody. I'm joking. Yeah. For those of you who are writing this down at home, not borrow on margin. No,
because Jay hit the nail on the head. The point to take away from here is that we're making the assumption again. Assumptions are this is an assumption, is that this at some point there's going to be some end to this, and it's however long it takes, it's going to come back to normal or some version of it. If you can, retirement money is for retirement, and it's easy. It's like now the 401k. It's like it's easy to take a loan, and it sounds good, and it sounds like wow, it's not going to do any damage. We're Cro-Magnon. We're like, look, if it's money for retirement, leave it for retirement for as long as you can. Like that's money that you need, because right now you still have a job. You're still employable. Even if you change jobs, you still have a way to make. But when you're 75 or 80 years old and you're not going back to work, that's all you have. That's your money. That your retirement.
And help me out on this. If you God forbid you lose your job, and you've got an outstanding $50,000 loan on your 401k, right?
You have to pay it back.
You got to come up with $40,000 pronto, right? You got to come up with that right away, right? So that potentially makes a bad situation worse,
right?
And then what's the remind me again of the age, because we talked about this on the show one time. If your money's in a 401k, not rolled into an IRA, what's the age that you can pull
55.
them?
55 or older. Okay. Yeah.
So now to your point, right? So now you got to think through a little bit and say, look, do you think your job is in that much jeopardy? Because if you think your job is in that much jeopardy, the flexibility around being able to access some of this money, if you're 55 years old or older, might change dramatically in a month or 2 or 6 without you having to lock yourselves into a decision where you say, sure, I'm going to do the loan, and then they drop the layoff on you, and now you're in worse shape.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of this is kind of gaming it out a little bit, but there's a host of questions, I guess, that go into a decision like that, whether or not it's the best. It's not just run to the HR office and fill out the paperwork for the loan, I guess is the point.
Yeah. And granted, every case is different. So you could have some other issues, some other bills that, so of course you want to look at it. I guess the point that I want to make is that the idea of treating your retirement with like the reverence that it deserves. So your 401k, it's not because it's very, how many people tell you, oh, I just, the money comes out of my paycheck. I don't even notice. I don't even look at the statements. It's just there, right? So, oftentimes you kind of have that, you forget about it, or it's not like in the forefront of your mind. Your 401k or your retirement plan, that's really, really important. And you may be, seemingly a lifetime away from retirement. That is, you really have to take care of it now. And
it's easy to get off track. It's easy to take the easy road out. Because you know what? First of all, nobody wants to do it, right? So it's not like they're going to have a consultation with friends to say, "Hey, I'm thinking about pulling some money out of my retirement account because times are a little tough because of the pandemic." That's not going to happen, right? So you talk to an advisor. You're going to talk to a trusted advisor about something like this, and then to your point, you want to start with well, let's see if we have to do that first, right? People will say, "Hey, things are a little rough right now. We're tightening the belt." People will say that, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody will understand that because they're probably in a very similar situation. But the idea of rushing to the retirement account distribution, I agree with you. I think it's a recipe for not great things.
It could, yeah. It could potentially be a serious problem. And again, this is something, it's not something to be taken lightly. If you need to start drawing income or drawing money from your assets, wherever they may be, that's a big deal. So you want to kind of frame that up, and you want to war game that out in the sense that, like, okay, so if this goes for 6 months, this is where it's going to come from. After that, then we may have to change. You eventually may have to do it. You may not have a choice. And some people, that's what it's for. It's there for when you kind of run out of other viable options to do that. But remember,
that's when I want to do it. That's when I want to do it. I want it to be my last option. I don't want it to be my first option. I think you're right when you sort of take the approach of, let's really kind of game this out and let's see if this is what we have to do, or is there another option out there? And by the way, we joked about it at the beginning of the show, and maybe that is the option. Maybe the option is you do pick up something else. Maybe your option is, I'm so respectful of my pool of retirement money. I'm willing to do something else for 6 months. I'm willing to give something until this too shall pass happens, and then I can kind of go back to it. And then also solve the problem of what you mentioned, which is, do we have a pool of resources for this type of an emergency where we can handle this going forward, and how do we, potentially solve two problems, if you will.
And a lot of people, in this, kind of in the aftermath of the pandemic, the idea of having some sort of a fund or some sort of, a place to go in the case of an emergency. Now people may be looking down that barrel right now and saying, I'm glad I did this, or I wish I did that.
Right. Well, and to your point, again, depending on where you are in the process, you're 5 to 10 years out from retirement. This has a larger than life impact on what your retirement looks like. We've talked about it a million times on the show, right? 50,000 potentially turns into whatever it turns into, and you could potentially take 1 year. You think you're doing yourself a favor in the short term. That turns into affecting 2 or 3 years of your retirement in retirement, just to get a 6-month window, if that's what you think you need to do, right? So I really would
say it could be like a perfect storm, right? Of the market drops, I draw money, you can't make it up any worse, right? The market drops, I take money out of my retirement, and here I am, and now I'm really behind the 8 ball, much worse than I was off kind of before this started.
You're writing up basically it's an exam at that point. That's what you're writing up, right? You're writing up the question. If this happens, what do you do, right? And then you go through, you kind of case study the whole thing out. It's real. It's going to be real. Yeah. And you're going to be faced with that decision. And I think that there's other ways to go, but I think first thing you do is sharpen the pencil. That's the first thing I think you do, and you sort of say, all right, let's really try to
sharpen your pencil. There you go. Yeah,
it's a pen.
Yeah. I have a pen too. You can sharpen your pen.
That's right.
All right. So we have a couple minutes left. I think we could let's talk about what's happening for the Marsden Memorial, because I know Memorial Day is a very, very special holiday for you for a number of different reasons. But the big one is because it's the beginning of your season.
It's my favorite. We've talked about this on the show for 10 years. It's my favorite time of the year. Yep. I mean, it's a little different this year. It's going to be a little weird. There's a lot of masks. There's not a lot of. I'll have to hunt a little harder for some fried clams right now, because I got to really to drive by. It's not a sit and eat. That might change in the next couple of weeks, but
You say fried clams? I miss that. Is that your?
Oh yeah. By the way, that's part and parcel. I mean, this whole idea of the economy and the impact on people who are working has obviously this whatever this slowdown is going to look like. It's going to impact, business owners are having this conversation right now, especially we've talked about this about down on the Cape. There's a lot of people that say, look, I get 4 months to make my money, right?
And that's in the best of times.
Okay? That's right. Yeah. And they're counting on foot traffic, and they're counting on, bodies coming through the front door, and they're counting on all that stuff. And they've just basically lost a month, right? They've lost 25% of that opportunity. Right. And we've talked about it from a savings perspective, to make 100% of your money in 4 months, to make the same amount of money in 3 months. I mean, you're going to be that much busier, right? And it doesn't get harder. That doesn't get easier to do that in that type of window. So, this conversation about, cash flow and money that we're going to use, this is happening at the personal level, and it's happening at the professional level. And you're seeing it a lot down here where places they just can't open up yet,
and all these communities, ours in Holliston are, down, and particularly in the vacation communities, you're going to see it. I mean, these guys are really, really in a tough place because of all the changes. Everybody jokes around about, oh, the Cape is so crowded and the Cape is so, in the summertime. There's a reason it's crowded in the summertime, and there's good things about the fact that it's crowded in the summertime, because, like Jay said, that's when everybody's making their money. That's when, like, it's not like the seafood shanty is like making money in February. They're not. It's just not how it works. They're not even open, right? So these seasonal businesses really kind of So I guess the point is, we in the beginning of the show we kind of touched on this as far as like the social distancing, but as things start to open up, I guess we all need to be smart. We all need to be careful. We all need to be, but with that, I think we can, as you're being careful and as you're being aware, like situationally aware, it doesn't mean that as long as the businesses are enabling this situational awareness. If you can go to them, if you can provide them, your patronage, then that's important.
They're doing this. They're doing the same thing that you and I just talked about at the beginning of the show, right? They are also implementing their post-pandemic opening procedures, right?
Yep.
And they're sitting down with their staff and they're saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. When Jay and John come in and sit down and have lunch, you are going to greet them with a mask. You're going to stay X feet away. There's not going to be tables butt up against one another so that you're on top of each other. There'll be a degree of social distancing. And by the way, we're walking around the facility or the building, and we're doing all those things. We're wiping everything down. Like you're going to see it. You're going to see it because people have to feel comfortable.
Yeah, they have to feel safe, right? And that's what these guys are going to do.
That's right. They're going to feel comfortable coming back to work, and they got to feel comfortable patronizing these places, right? And that's the only thing that's going to help us turn the corner on this. And that's mindset. That's what we talked about earlier, which was this comfort level of how do I get there? And you get there by doing what you just said, which is be situationally aware, right? Everybody's on edge. It's not, let's just all handle it, like civilized human beings. Let's not, let's not throw anybody off a top deck because you don't think it's going to get too close to you or something like that. Let's, easy, everybody.
Don't throw anybody off the
upper deck.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to say off the ramp.
That's right, off the ramp. That's right, off the ramp. But yeah, I mean, again, these guys are they have the same concerns everybody else does, right? Yep. How do you open this thing up? Forget what phase you're in. Forget how quick the phases happen. Whatever it is. Yeah. There's going to be a little bit of a snowball effect. Things are going to start to change up. I probably won't have this beard much longer. It's about time to clean my act up. This pandemic look is, getting a little. So, we got to take that on. But this is what has to happen. And you would be right to do the same thing yourself.
I mean, well, I probably could stand to use a haircut. Although I don't know if the weight gaining program that I'm on is going to if that's going to change anytime soon. I'm working on it, but at the same time,
at the Scotch and Ruffles play you were working on in the last
right, yeah, right. Like my pasta intake could go down a little bit if I really worked at it.
You got to carb up. It's a marathon. You got to carb up. It's a marathon.
Yeah, I feel like I got a marathon to get up in the morning and sit in my dining room and work all day. Yeah, that's, if you call that a marathon, then yeah. All right, but so
the takeaway is, as these things unfurl, as these situations present themselves, have a plan. It's always been about the plan. Have a plan.
Yep.
So that I understand the idea that we're in sort of uncharted waters, but we talked about this in the show before. The pandemic is uncharted waters, but the economic impact is the economic impact that would happen as a result of some type of event, right?
Sure.
It's geopolitical, whether it's environmental, whatever it is. The answer is respond to it with a plan. Don't just kind of try to freewheel this thing because again, you got to sort of figure out. You got to look a couple of moves ahead. Is the point?
I love it. I love that kind of stuff. All right, we're done. We got to go. We'll see everybody next week. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. All right. Think about all the great things that go along with Memorial Day and all the sacrifices that all of the soldiers that have made for our freedom as part of Memorial Day. And everybody be careful, be safe. Jay, you make sure you be careful and be safe, because
You do the same, buddy.
Yeah, I need you. I need
right.
you. I need you there. All right, we'll see everybody next time.
Yeah, everybody. Guys, have a great weekend.
All right, bye-bye.